is Kyle Stowers, and you're listening to Fish on First.
Welcome into Fish on First Live, the first live stream we're doing, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. First live stream we're doing since partnering with Foul Territory Network. Big step forward, lots to cover in today's live stream. Joining me is Kevin Burrell, Eli Sussman, Alex Carver. I'm Jeremiah Geiger, and we have plenty to talk about. Almost a full week's worth of Grapefruit League action, guys. How are we feeling?
Good. There's a lot to dive into. I think there's good. There's some bad. A lot of good stories in terms of Brax coming back. We got to see Thomas White. Robbie Slang gets to start tomorrow. And we've been at almost every game so far. Fish on First has had coverage out there. We have Nate on site. It seems like he has a couple fans as well out at Dunedin. And we'll see if that's the same in Clearwater tomorrow.
That was a nice milestone to be recognized from fans, much less being literally embraced by fans while doing his coverage out there. So yes, a good point that it's been an interesting start to this spring, even in a small sample size. And something like that stands out is like how much they are really alternating reps and slow playing it in terms of not getting anybody too deeply involved in these games right away. So we're dealing with the smallest of small samples so far. And today of all days, kind of a perfectly really epitomized this team, the way that the game actually played out for a game where the results themselves couldn't be any less relevant. The fact that the actual sequence of events kind of mirrored a lot of comebacks that we saw during the 2025 regular season. I think a lot of fans got a kick out of that.
Carver, what do you think so far?
Yeah, mixed bag really so far. Like Eli said, it's just a lot of guys getting reps, a lot of guys getting time. They're looking at a lot of different moving parts, which is interesting. But when you have a lot of close, near major league ready young guys and then some established big leaguers on top of that, with some battles going on, that's what's going to happen. Glad to see some of the young guys getting out there, getting chances. That probably will be optioned to start the year still, but to see them show well, like Carson Milbrand did say, was really good. Brandon Jones, I think, has done well so far for himself in his first big league spring training. So there's encouraging stuff from the next crop of guys coming as well that probably won't make the team right now, but could make some kind of impact maybe later this year or next year. So Dylan Lewis today with a hit too, by the way, his first as a Marlin, which was cool to see. So awesome stuff so far. I think there's been both good and bad, as Kevin said. I think that from the outset, some of these final roster spots, I am intrigued that a lot of the guys that I am rooting for, not that I'm not rooting for any of them, I'm rooting for all of them, but some of the younger guys that I am particularly looking at have done well so far as well. So we'll get into that, I'm sure, but kind of a mixed bag so far, good and bad, but I'm encouraged for sure.
Yeah, Carver, good stuff from Ryan Ignafa, huh?
Today was a big day, I felt like, because we had the return of Braxton Garrett. I mean, coming off of injury, actually getting to pitch in a live game environment. I know he's not going to pitch deep into games, only just the one inning, but it was good to see him back on a mound, I felt like.
Yeah. In fact, right on cue, we have some video from Nate that we got from the ballpark speaking with Braxton after the game. So let's get to that first, and then we'll dive in a little bit more about what he said about his first time on a major league mound in any sort of setting since 2024.
Were there any jitters out there? First time on a big league mound since 2024 and first spring game since 2023?
For sure. Yeah, I was definitely a little nervous. Adrenaline was going. I say nervous, but I'm really excited. It's been a long time, pitching on a big league mound is what I've dreamed of my whole life. So it's been a long time, so I definitely felt some nerves getting back out there for the first time.
Fastball to 93 a couple times, just out of that pitch field today, just a spot in command.
Feels pretty good. Coming out good, command not great. I got to clean that up. just feel like I was moving a little too fast early in the game. Yeah, just got to clean up the command of it.
You mentioned that cutter. Just what are you going to work on for that pitch the rest of the spring?
You know, I got to talk to Mosk. I got to talk to Rob a little bit on that. No, mostly just getting it, you know, up on the righty's hands. If it's a cutter, if it's a slider, just got to get the shape a little more consistent and find some comfort zones, some comfort spots in the zone I can get to with it.
So there it is, Bragg speaking today. And I know there was a bit of a excitement a few weeks ago when it was mentioned that he was hitting 95 when working off of mounds. And I was a little skeptical about his velo actually being any significantly different than it was before the injury. I mean, today he maxed out at like 93.5, which is a bit notable. Like there were plenty of starts before his injury when he wasn't hitting that number, but as he kind of hammered home, he wasn't locating as precisely as he would have liked in this one. There were plenty of non-competitive misses, even in a pretty small sample. And ultimately that's going to be what's most important for him, because when he was before getting hurt in 2023 and then early 2024, he had one of the lowest walk rates in baseball over the course of that span. And so that was such a key for him, is minimizing the number of free base runners. And I think that'll continue to be the big point of emphasis in the rest of the spring if he's going to definitely lock up a rotation spot.
Yeah, he's a guy who I think kind of relies on kind of placing his pitches pretty well, getting a lot of whiffs. Didn't really do that in this one. Only threw 13 strikes out of his, I think it was 23 pitches that he threw. Only whiff he got was on that slider, which he only threw twice. So it was a lot of sinkers, cutter, changeups, kind of threw a little bit of everything. But yeah, I mean, it was a fine start. He got out of it. He gave up 2 runs. So got a nice strikeout, Addison Barger. So nothing crazy. He's been building up for a while. He was at 3 innings and like live or something. So I'm still one of those that is a little bit against the 1 inning increments. I still don't know why they did it with Phillips on Wednesday when he literally threw an inning in Port St. Lucie already. That one didn't make much sense to me. I'll be curious to see what they do with Robbie Snelling tomorrow, but overall, Brax looked fine. Nothing really that stands out. It's good to see that the velos are kind of in check to where they were beforehand, as Eli noted. I was a little surprised to hear 95 at one point in that first bullpen. Maybe that's just him not kind of letting it rip, but maybe that comes down to the next starter too. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, definitely encouraging to see him back on a mound. I mean, the Marlins, as we know, needed to work to bring in some left-handed bullpen options in the spring and winter. And they did. They got John King and others to come in. But if you're looking at left-handed rotation options, he's the only one with major league experience. So, I mean, unless Snelling makes the team or Thomas White comes up shortly, which we expect, I mean, this is probably your main option if you want a lefty in the rotation. So, at least the only one with big league experience, like I said. So to see him out there on a mound again, throwing is encouraging. They'll need him at some point this year, whether it's out of the gate in the rotation, which we'll see. I would expect it. But yeah, I mean, or if it's later, you know, who knows how they're going to build him up. But to see him back out there and pitching is definitely encouraging because the Marlins need left-handed arms. I think just okay. I wouldn't expect the 95 that Eli said before to continue. I don't think that's who this pitcher ever was, even coming up, or ever will be. If he can be at 93 consistently, that's even encouraging because he's more of a 90-91 guy. The buildup of the cutter, as Nate noted in the interview with him, will be, I think, significant. This is a pitcher that has reinvented himself since he's come up a couple of times, I would say. He used to be a fastball, changeup, curveball guy, and now he's fastball, cutter, slider. So you can kind of see the propensity at which this player has changed throughout the course of his years. And after TJ, I think he will change even more. So definitely a intriguing point in his career. Is he going to stay with the Marlins long term? I don't know with the lefties that they have coming up, but I think this year will be a telling possible turning point in his career and maybe what the Marlins could get for him, maybe as a deadline piece with the lefties prospects coming up. Stuff like that is kind of what you look at. But if they do want a lefty out of the rotation, this is your closest guy. And I think the rest of the spring, what he does will be telling in terms of his short-term future. But good to see him back out there today. But
I think you even need to ask yourself, like, is this a guy who's going to make the opening day rotation? Because they have options. Clearly, I think when you look at veteran guys, Braxton clearly is almost right at the top, maybe right behind Sandy in terms of like this. Oh, and Paddock. This is a veteran who's been here now. He knows what these situations look like, and they're in a regular season like that. He's had a playoff start under his belt, but is he ready? Like, is he actually ready, built up? I don't know. And I think that's what this spring is going to be for. There was a couple guys that pitched today that really didn't impress. I'm not going to go say that about Thomas because Thomas was his first ever appearance in a Grapefruit League game, but Gusto followed him up, didn't look great. So there are a couple other guys who out there. I didn't watch the whole game, but just from the bits and pieces that I did see, there was a couple guys who really didn't impress. But then there were guys who you look at the other day, I thought Mazur was pretty good. So he's definitely going to be someone in competition for a rotation spot, but we'll see. I think Brax is in a probably the most intriguing position of all the pitchers in camp, if I had to say, just given where he's at, where he's at in terms of the buildup, where he's at in terms of what the stuff looked like today. Because it's just super weird. You know, you go 3 ups in a live BP session or live pitch design, whatever you want to call it, and then you're going 1 inning, on the west side of Florida. So found it, he's in a weird spot, but overall was fine.
I mean, I wouldn't be against. Sorry, Jeremiah. I wouldn't be against a possible, bullpen stint for him to start the year. I would not be against that at all. He needs to build back up. He needs to work on this cutter. He needs to even work on the slider, as he said in that interview. Command's going to need to return to him. That cutter's a new pitch for him. The slider is semi-new. So yeah. And then what's the velo going to be like? I think putting him in the bullpen and letting him build back up wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Just give him time to come back fully. And then maybe shop him at the deadline. That I think will be a viable way to go with Garrett, but he's going to be on the team in some capacity. We just need to see how. But yeah, I mean, I think with the options they have, if he gets beat out for the rotation spot, I think the bullpen will be fine for him and maybe even recommended.
I think if he gets flat out beat for a rotation spot, you kind of tip your cap and move on. But I don't necessarily think he would be suited for a bullpen role unless it's that middle relief kind of profile. But you have that already with Jansen Junk. I know we have, we talk about Tyler Phillips, who can be stretched out into a starter's capacity. I think Garrett, the fact that he only pitched an inning and was hitting 93 consistently, that's encouraging to me because, like Eli said, this is a pitcher who isn't known for velocity at all. I think averaged during that 2023 season, 90-91 was the average velo on his 4-seam. So he's said he's been healthy for a while now. I think they've been extra cautious with him. And like the comment LMF was saying, I think they want him in the rotation because he's a lefty. They don't have Ryan Weathers anymore. And personally, I also think Garrett would have the inside track of a rotation spot over someone like Max Meyer. I'm higher on Braxton Garrett returning closer to that 2023 version than something I haven't seen out of Meyer yet, ever.
Yeah. The one thing that I would push back on is that from watching this team last year, they do not care about the handedness of their starters. Last year, if you look back at it, they had partial season of Ryan Weathers, and that was it. That was the only lefty that they used as they started the entire year. To my surprise, I was a bit surprised by how extreme they were. Once they lost him, and obviously Braxton was out all of last year, they didn't feel any pressure to even call up Snelling, who, of course, is going to give them more left-handedness moving forward. I think, to me, they certainly want being left-handed helps you control the running game. And that was a big issue for all their pitchers last year. And that's something that Snelling in particular will help with when he gets up to the big leagues. He's awesome at doing that. He won the minor league Gold Glove last year in large part because he's so good at controlling runners, picking them off, and just deterring them from getting quality leads in the first place, in addition to fielding his position. So, that's one consideration. I don't think they'd force Braxton in the rotation because he's a lefty, but more so to what you previously mentioned, it's because he kind of has that profile of a starter. He has a pretty deep pitch mix, and he has outstanding control, but he's not going to overpower guys. Where if you put him in shorter stints, I don't think that necessarily is going to make him better the way that does with some other more traditional power pitchers, where when they can really air it out, they can get a lot more swing and miss than they would otherwise. With him, I think he's going to be the same dude no matter what role it is. At least he has a track record of being a starter. So that's why if at all possible, they're definitely going to lean in that direction.
One other thing also was worth mentioning is the innings. I mean, this is a guy who's It's coming off TJ. Like, how many innings realistically can this guy pitch? I mean, you could make him a fifth starter, and he wouldn't go every. It'd be a little different. But I don't know. I feel like the bullpen would be an interesting situation for him, kind of in that junk role that we saw last season. But again, we're saying that with a lot of guys. Like, this guy could be the junk. This other guy could be Jansen junk. Like, you got to choose maybe one guy to do that. And it looks like they've chosen Tyler Phillips to maybe be that guy, that versatile guy. I'd be curious to see what happens with Garrett, where they put him. But, like, where realistically does this guy end up? If they really want to, they could send him down to AAA. He has one option left. You let him build it back up a little bit, see where he's at. But at this point in his career, would you really want to do that? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to. I don't know. He's in a weird spot. He's in a very weird spot, probably the weirdest amongst all Marlins pitchers right now, in my opinion.
From a front office standpoint, I look at it as a fact of what plays up most to people who may want to shop for this guy, because I think when the prospects come up that he's not gonna be on the Marlins anymore, and he still has 2 years team control. So they just paid him arbitration. He's going to be on the team. They avoided arbitration with him. He'll be on the Marlins. I don't think they're going to send him down. They're probably going to want to shop him. I think it will be smart to shop him at least at the deadline. So you don't want to load a ton of innings on. I think the bullpen is the most viable solution for Braxton, but we'll see.
I mean, would he be willing to add a third, maybe fourth lefty to that bullpen? Because that's what it would look like. Right now, maybe Nardi and John King as your two, maybe with Kate as your third. You would add a fourth?
I mean, like Eli said, I don't think they really care about handedness of players. I just think they care about outs.
Yeah,
and Braxton is a guy that's going to get outs in any situation that he's in. So if he gets beat out, as Jeremiah said, and because of the fact that you don't want to load a ton of innings onto his arm at this point, and you're not going to send him down, I think he makes the most sense out of the bullpen. He's going to be on the Marlins, I think. I don't think they will send him down, even though he has the option. So I think that he will be in the bullpen personally, but we'll see. It's a really interesting spot with him. If he goes out and does really well in his next few starts, I think he could be in the rotation. So we'll see. I mean, I don't really know, but at this point, what it does mean to me is that unless Snelling throws lights out baseball, you don't have to have him on the team to start the year, and you can get the extra year control. Anyways, I know we went long on Braxton, but yeah, I think I agree, Kev. I think he's in the most interesting spot out of anybody on this team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think last thing I'll say on Braxton Carver is if they shop him, I just don't know what value you would get back unless he pitches phenomenal in the first half of the year, and that means he's probably in the rotation. With Snelling, if it were up to me, he would have been called up last year, but the organization wants to take that slow, and I have my doubts if he's going to break camp with the team. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I'm fully expecting him not to make the opening day roster at this point. Snelling, that is.
I mean, he would have to have a big spring, right? And as you kind of noted, like, he would legitimately have to beat out Braxton Garrett for that spot, potentially even Jansen Junk whenever he gets back into the swing of things. I think Max Myers kind of got this rotation spot unlocked. They're really high on him. They continue to like this guy. They think he's a starter. We had this conversation on the last stream, so I'm not going to make that one a long one again there, but they like him enough to, I think, where he's going to be in the starting rotation. Now it's just a matter of who gets that last spot. I prefer to have a lefty there. I feel like you need a lefty in the rotation. They clearly don't care about that, which is why, in all likelihood, Jansen Junk will get that last spot. But there's a lot of options. I think Snelling is definitely a consideration. He should be, in my opinion. He's making another start tomorrow. So he'll probably go maybe 2 or 3 innings. I think that's a guy who you need to consider if he continues to have a really good spring. But the way that they're talking, I do agree, Jeremy. I don't think he may not make the opening day roster.
Yeah, I think I would agree. There's just so many options, especially with Jung coming back healthy. It's not, he's going to be up at some point, and 2 weeks down in AAA, you can save the year of control. You do that. I mean, especially when you have this many options that are able to contribute. So I mean, yes, everybody hates the service time manipulation conversation, but why wouldn't you do that if this is going to be a big part of your future? So you save that extra year of control, even if he's down there for, like, I think it's, Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 2 weeks or something. Right. Which is like 2 starts. So it doesn't really even matter that much. I mean, I don't think Snelling, he's very professional. I don't think he would care, honestly. And I love Robbie Snelling. He's probably one of the better control arms in this system, probably the best control arm in the system at this point, I would say. But what I would also say is don't take that 97 that he threw in his first start to heart either. Kind of like Braxton throwing 95. He's not a huge velo guy. He's going to make a 93, 94. but he's got like 5 pitches to him and really good control. So Robbie Snelling is going to be on this team. He doesn't have to be on the team out of spring training, though.
Don't the Marlins get an extra pick if he's on the opening day roster and on the roster throughout the entire year, or is that, or am I missing something there?
Let me clarify how that works. Where if they keep Snelling down for, as Carver noted, a little over 2 weeks, then that ordinarily will prevent him from accruing a full year of service time this year and gives them team control through at least 7 seasons instead of 6 seasons. There are exceptions to that, most notably Paul Skeens, because under the prospect, the current rules, not the prospect promotion incentive, that's what Kevin's thinking about. Through the new change in the CBA, if you win Rookie of the Year and you entered that year as like a, actually it's really anybody that wins Rookie of the Year, they get credited with that full year of service even in that first year. That's how Skeens got it, and that's why all of a sudden the clock is kind of ticking down on the Pirates with him, even though he didn't get called up until like mid-May of that year, a couple of years ago, because he won Rookie of the Year. It was a relatively new rule that he get credited with a full year of service anyway. Same thing with Adley Rutschman when he won Rookie of the Year. So Snelling, if he's still awesome when he gets called up, even if they delayed a few weeks, he might get that extra year anyway. But you have to be on the opening day roster to trigger the prospect promotion incentive. If you're a top 100 prospect like Snelling is, then you can activate that if your team actually takes that incentive and puts you on the opening day roster. That means that if he, for example, if he contends for Rookie of the Year, even if he finishes second in Rookie of the Year and actually spends the whole season on the team's roster, then that triggers the extra draft pick where you get an extra pick at the end of the first round, which is extremely valuable. And so that comes into play. Again, that is contingent on where you finish with Rookie of the Year. It's also something that could be triggered in the next couple of years based on like Cy Young finishes. That's only for, that's if your guy you're looking at you feel has an extremely high ceiling, then it's worth it. And with Snelling, he's in that interesting spot where I think everybody agrees that he's going to be a productive starter in the big leagues. Is he somebody that's realistically going to be at that high end where you think you're really going to get, it's actually going to actualize in terms of Rookie of the Year or Cy Young? Probably not. That might be taking it a step too far. So it's an interesting game of push and pull where they do have some incentive to promote him early, but at the same time, the most likely outcome is that holding him down is what's going to pay off long term, because he's going to be somewhere in the middle in terms of his accolades, and getting that extra year of service time is throughout this organization's history. Whenever they've had a chance to do that, they've done that.
Yeah, I think it's in terms of his like long-term future and like, is he going to, contend for a Cy Young award in his first season? As much as I really, really love Robbie Snelling, I think it's more of a control first guy than a huge swing and miss, blow it by you stuff like a Thomas White. Their stuff is a lot different, where Thomas has that blow it by you amazing stuff, and Snelling's more of the command and control artist that's going to really outthink you on the mound. So I would say as he breaks in, I personally wouldn't expect to see him finishing top 2 in Cy Young voting as he breaks into his big league career. However, he could be very, very good in terms of limiting walks and limiting damage. So I wouldn't expect that, and I would expect the Marlins to prioritize the year of control, especially because it's the Marlins. So I don't think at this point we'll see Robbie on the opening day roster, but we will see him very shortly in the season.
And with the year of control,
I mean, maybe he can come out and just go crazy this spring, and then he would earn his spot and force their hand. So it depends what he does this spring. I think it would take a bit.
I think that same thing applies to someone like a Joe Mack, where I think they will do pretty much the same thing, where they're going to try to get that year of control. I think it'll be the Augustine thing, right? I think they're going to give Augustine this time where he could catch, maybe do it, maybe not. And if it doesn't work, there it is. You got. I don't see him breaking camp. Unfortunately, it'd have to be like the Jordan Walker type spring that he had a couple years back, where he forced his way onto the roster. Which I don't see. He could do it, but they are going to try to get the extra year. I think they like this tandem of Augustine and Hicks at the moment until they realize Augustine can't do it behind the plate, and then that's when they'll start experimenting with Ramirez at first or wherever it may be, and that's when you call up someone like a Joe Mack, who Chris Paddock gave a lot of credit to how he worked behind the plate, although I don't know how much credit you give that now because of the calling pitches from the dugout. I think it's just more how you frame pitches, the ABS success, all that stuff. But people seem to like working with Joe Mack. They are very high on this guy. They really like this guy. More, I think it's more like the defense and the offense that they like from this guy. Like, he's a really good offensive piece, but man, what he does behind the plate is very impressive. I mean, Carver, you see it a lot. Like, this is a really good prospect. I think they're going to wait just like they did with Ramirez. I think that conversation we're just having with Snelling applies to someone like a Thomas White. I think White will be a little bit later, though, and then a Joe Mack.
I agree with you, Kevin. I think. Oh, go ahead, Carver. Oh, yeah. So with
I was
Mac,
going to agree as well. Yeah, go ahead. Go,
Jeremiah. Go. What do you choose?
I think Mac is going to be called up in a couple months, not a couple months, but sooner rather than later, but still not break camp. Here's the thing. Here's the big question. Here's what fascinates me. You're going to have on the 40-man roster, assuming Liam Hicks and Agustin Ramirez are the two catchers to break camp. Mac isn't. What do you do with those three catchers positional wise? Do you move Agustin to full-time DH? Like you mentioned earlier, Kevin, do you move him to first base and give him reps there? I don't see a scenario in which you can justify having three catchers and splitting catching duties between the three of them per week. You have to get playing time at bats here and there. So like if Augustin's a clear liability behind the plate, then do you just bite the bullet and make him a full DH? Because that's what I'm leaning toward if you don't want to give him a shot at first when Matt comes up.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to figure out some kind of answer with Agustin Ramirez's future in terms of what position he plays, because it's not going to be catcher. I think they kind of already know it, honestly. Yeah, they're going to try it because I think they have to. But it's just it's not a position for everyone. Number one, it's probably the hardest position to play on the diamond. It's grueling to play that position. It is very, very, very difficult to be a Major League Baseball catcher every day. And then just tools wise, this player doesn't have it in the cards. I think they'll realize that or admit to realizing that before long. Joe Mack has been an amazing defensive catcher since high school. That's never been a problem. The question with him is his bat going to come to fruition? And we've already started to see that, including last year with Jacksonville and already this spring. Joe Mack is arriving now. And I think that the Marlins nobody's going to block that. Agustin Ramirez isn't going to block that. Obviously Liam Hicks isn't going to block that. But that tandem of Mack and Liam Hicks, that sounds really good to me. Especially for Mack to continue to learn from somebody like Liam Hicks. I think that is an awesome thing to have, and credit to the Marlins for finding Liam Hicks, by the way, in the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. This tandem, I think that how the Marlins are lining up at catcher, nothing's going to block that. With Mack leading the way and Hicks being the mentor, that's going to be spectacular to continue to have on this team for a long time. And the question with Agustin, how's he going to hit? Does he hit enough? Because that's what's going to carry this player is the bat. So, and the speed. I think the speed is intriguing as well with him. So get him out from behind the plate, get him out from crouching on his knees. Let that speed work for you a little bit and make him an offensive-only player. I think that is a great answer to that question. And then you'll have guys like Conine and others behind him that can kind of split reps at DH if they have to. I don't think that's a bad problem to have. Agustin being the primary designated hitter on this team is, I think, the future that they're going towards very quickly as Joe Mack is ready right now.
I have some thoughts about Liam Hicks that we're going to get into in just a moment. First, of course, we are going to show some love to Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, offering Miami's best jet ski and boat adventures. They've been sponsoring our podcast for several months, and we've been enjoying it so far. 6 jet ski locations, over 120 boats. There's something for every style and every budget. Ride jet skis right in front of the downtown skyline and Ferris wheel, or book your own private boat starting as low as $300 with the captain included. Bring your drinks, bring your friends, enjoy the water your way. The boat is completely yours for the time that you reserve it. They're reservation-based only. To book, you call them at 305-990-2192 or check them out online at sfjetskirentals.com. Make sure to use our promo code. They give us our very own promo code now, Fish On First, when you go to make your reservation. That saves you 10% off your next booking. 305-990-2192, sfjetskirentals.com. So, Liam Hicks. I want to talk about Liam Hicks and the catcher situation because that is directly related to both Mac and to Gus, both for this year and beyond. Heading into spring training, the talk from Hicks is that he put on some good weight and that he was very specifically focused on adding to his exit velo and just throwing ability behind the plate, just getting stronger and kind of realizing that was somewhat of a limitation on his game last year. And that's something that really jumped out to me watching him last season. His numbers offensively like slowly trailed off as the year went on, where you would still see great swing decisions and you would still see a lot of good stuff, but it was capped by the fact that even when he crushed the ball, it was usually dying at the warning track. I think he only hit 5 home runs, 5 or 6 homers, and one of those was definitely off a position player late in the year. He had a pretty long streak where his power was fading. Small sample size this spring, he is really hitting the ball noticeably better. He's already had 3 hard hit balls out of like 4 balls in play, which is about as good as you can do. And I think he had another walk today on a relatively close pitch where as long as he's making the same great swing decisions as he did last year, but he's also combining it now with something that maybe can approach average power, then all of a sudden that just solidifies his spot on this roster. I think the expectation was that once Mac was here for good, that maybe Hicks would get squeezed down to Jacksonville or really buried all the way at the end of the bench. And having this aspect of his game, I think is going to be the differentiator. Whether or not it turns out that he's the same guy as last year, that does make him more expendable. But if there's a really tangible difference in what he's doing offensively that augments what he was already doing well last year as a rookie, then he's not going anywhere. They're going to find a way to play him at least on a part-time basis, even when they feel like Mac is ready.
Yeah, I feel like if he adds more slug, he's going to have clear value in this lineup, and he's going to carve out a role. I mean, who can forget that home run he hit back in Philly, that crazy comeback attempt that fell just short earlier in the year? Yeah. I think Hicks is a fine player. I think the ceiling's limited, obviously, but when you're looking at a player that's expected to be a backup, I think you take that kind of profile with that plate discipline 10 times out of 10. I think the only thing that doesn't make sense, though, with Hicks and where he fits on the roster is he's not a first baseman. He's just not. Defensively, he's limited to catcher. Yeah, maybe he could DH occasionally, but he's a 5'9" first baseman. You don't see that type of profile at the major league level. You just never do. When Mac comes up, if it's Mac and Hicks, I'm 100% okay with that. Move Augustine full-time to DH, and you have your catching tandem for the next 3 to 4 years, in my opinion, because I think Hicks is that valuable as a backup catcher. He's someone that can actually pinch hit off the bench, or on his days where he does get a start, he gets a couple base knocks. He's not an automatic out. So I think there's a vision in place, but it's all contingent upon, like Carver was saying, move Augustine to DH, because when he catches, he can't hit. Then Hicks slides into the backup role, and it's perfect.
Let me see what else people are saying in here about Hicks and the catcher situation. One thing that does jump out about Hicks, even as a catcher, and the difference between him and Fortes is that Fortes was as good as it gets in terms of blocking pitches. And for as silly as some of these numbers are in spring training, the Marlins far and away have thrown the most wild pitches in spring training. It's not all on the pitchers. Most of those came with Hicks behind the plate. There was one particular game just a few days ago where they set eight wild pitches with, I think at least 5 of those were with Hicks behind the plate. And that is something that he didn't really excel in last year. He was certainly better than Augustine in terms of that sort of stuff. Still, it is something that I think that's something they noticed down the stretch once they traded Fortes, and the fact that the team itself didn't quite have enough steam, of course, to sneak into the playoffs. That's one aspect where Mac is going to be such an important upgrade compared to both of these other guys. So when Hicks, even though I like where it's trending offensively, that is still one area where potentially that's something that could be coachable too. Because when I bring up somebody like Fortes, he was not any sort of extraordinary defender as a minor leaguer. That's something he got better at as he got more big league experience, being able to block pitches. So that's the next frontier, I'd say, with Hicks. I don't know if that's an assignment for this year or maybe even beyond that, but it has jumped out to me in spring training. One of the few things that has certainly been the number of balls in the dirt that maybe a more extraordinary defender would actually be able to help their pitchers out more so in those situations. There's some other questions in here that we could get to. Got this one early on about Owen Casey. We haven't touched on him yet. And he's one of the players that's heading out to the WBC just a few days from now. Do we think Kemp Alderman is going to get a bigger opportunity when Casey goes to the WBC? This applies to a lot of players and how their opportunities are going to change in those couple weeks when the WBC guys are out of town. So yeah, that's one angle to it. The other angle to it is how we're feeling about Casey. Haven't seen what he's done in this relatively small sample. I've been somebody that came into this year feeling that I needed to see quite a bit more from him as an overall hitter in order to feel convinced that he's going to be worth what they traded to get him as the centerpiece of the Edward Cabrera trade. And I know, Kevin, you've noticed that in these first few games, the strikeouts are pretty high at this point in a way that I don't know. What's your level of concern at this point from what we've seen in that tiny sample?
It's early. He's only played in 3 games, but he's in those 3 games. He's already struck out 5 times. He's yet to record a hit. I think on one of them it was an ABS. So actually, it was today. He got struck out on an ABS, just like Griffin Conan did recently too. So he's not the first one that happens to. But I don't know. I think he's a little bit too swing happy. I think he's kind of chasing a little bit too much. I don't know. I think it's early. I don't know. Maybe the WBC will help a guy like this where he goes in, plays a lot of games in a really short amount of time. A little more high, how do I say this? A little more important than a spring training game. A lot more important, actually. I don't know, though. I think it's just been maybe an adjustment to a new organization, but he's not looked good. It's been very underwhelming so far for someone like an Owen Casey, especially for a guy that they believe will make the opening day roster. I know, Eli, you don't think that, but I think they expect Casey to be in Lone Depot Park starting right field, wherever that may be hitting. He will be there. So, yeah, it's been underwhelming so far. Not really sure what to think about it. Yeah, I think just with time, things will change. We talk about underwhelming spring trainings and this and that, but then you see the case of a Kyle Stowers who ended up doing what he did. So I don't want to, call Owen Casey a bust of a trade or anything like that yet. I don't think that's even necessary to do, but he's certainly been underwhelming, and hopefully things turn around for the best.
I don't want to overreact either, and I'm not, because I think Kevin is ultimately right that it's early and this is a young player. But that at bat today against Gossman, his first at bat, I watched that. That was real bad. I mean, 3 pitches, 3 fastballs, and he gets struck out, up and outside. Gausman isn't a guy who throws 98, he throws 93. So, I mean, like that you see moments like that and you're like, ooh, is this player actually ready? Like what's going on here? But, we expect a high strikeout rate from this player. It's going to be part of his game. But when you're going out on 3 pitches to Gausman, who is a good pitcher, of course, and established major leaguer. So it's not like that's a far cry from, or he has anything to be ashamed of that. Like it's, some unheralded prospect or anything like that. But still, when you see moments like that, a 3-pitch at bat, and you're struggling that badly, it's kind of like you want to see less of that, right? So I think that there is obviously time for this guy to improve. There's time this spring for him to still show what he's got. WBC, I think, will be big for him. He's competing again in that competition. He's already done it once. So, yeah, not worried at all. But some of those moments that he's had, it doesn't look very encouraging right now. But there's time.
Yeah, with Casey, I'm going to give it a couple more weeks before I even start to panic because, again, it's just the first week of Grapefruit League action. We haven't even played a full week's worth of games yet. I will say, though, like to the fan base who is expecting Casey to come in and be a star right off the bat, look, I think he can be. I think he can be a superstar. That's why the Marlins traded 3 years of Edward Cabrera, albeit the injury risk included, but they still traded a breakout pitcher for a prospect that's a top prospect, hasn't proven it at the major league level. So even if he makes the big league team out of camp, expect some growing pains, and that's natural. And that's going to be the case with a lot of these Marlins prospects. I don't think it's fair to put these astronomical expectations onto Casey right now. Now, if this is September and we're saying he's striking out on 3 fastballs in a row from Kevin Gausman, then we're going to have to reevaluate here and reconsider things. But like Carver said, it's not necessarily about the result. It's like how you're looking. And if his at-bats start to look better, he's making more contact. And then obviously in the WBC, we'll see how that goes. I'm going to be still excited for him come opening day if he's on the roster.
His status kind of ties in a little bit to Griffin Conine too, because the talk in early camp was about how Conine was adjusting to first base, with the expectation being that he was doing that to create this wide open playing time for Casey in right field. We still haven't seen Conine play first base in an actual game yet. That's something that I'll be following kind of closely. And the reason why, on the last stream, I made that unpopular opinion that I don't see Casey as this moment fitting in a logical way on the opening day roster, because I'm not so sure that Conine is going to be fully acclimated to first base yet. And he's a guy that is certainly in sink or swim mode. Like they wanted to see what they have in Conine first, just because of how old he is and what he's already shown in a small sample at the big league level. So that's going to be something else I'm continuing to follow, is whether we see Conine at first base a little bit more as this goes on. Having Hicks away at the WBC for a few weeks does create more reps over there. It just based on anecdotally, it seemed like they were kind of encouraged with what Conine was looking at as a first baseman to this point. But it gets late early in terms of spring training reps. So there's only so many games he'll be able to get into unless they start soon, actually seeing how that experiment plays out in some sort of real game environment. Has Nardi made any appearances? This is a good time to touch on the injury situation, where Marlins have a handful of guys that haven't appeared in games yet, but all of them are kind of trending in a positive direction. So with Nardi, he's been throwing live BP. I think he may have thrown again today. He did a few days ago, where he's trending pretty close to getting into an actual game at some point, but not doing it yet. He is alive though, and currently dealing with a blister issue. It's no longer the back issue that kept him out all last year. It's a blister. So no Nardi in appearances yet. We've heard about Jansen Junk. He had that ankle issue. He was supposed to be throwing off a mound perhaps yesterday. So we could be seeing him. He's still an extra step away, because he'll still have to face live hitters before getting into a game. He's dealing with that. And then we have Graham Pauley. Graham Pauley is an interesting variable here, where Pauley is his forearm. He had that forearm soreness. They had to undergo tests, and there was, I guess, there was a scenario on the table that there was some sort of damage to that UCL, and it turns out that those came back all negative, just prescribed to be resting for a little while. And I think when Kevin was covering, you heard that the Paulie said that he was hoping to get back into games really soon, within the next week or so. So that's we'll see how he progresses in that regard. But yeah, Jeremiah, if Paulie does miss some time, then that does create an interesting domino effect when it comes to all these position players, because that could make it, depending, maybe it's as simple as Connor Norby slides into third base on a full-time basis. But I don't know. How do you think that does play out? If Paulie is even just a few days behind everybody else and doesn't actually make the opening day roster, what do you think we see at third base in his place?
Yeah, I think with Paulie in particular, if Paulie misses time, there we go. If Paulie misses time, I think the easiest solution is have Norby start at third. They want him to play third base. That was the calling card, going back to last spring training, is Norby's the third baseman. It's a tough position to learn, understandably so. I just really want Paulie to be healthy, because I think he gives the Marlins an, dare I say, elite defense on the infield, with Xavier Edwards at second, with Otto at short, and Paulie is an elite defender at third. Like, that's a really good defense. Now, first base is interesting, because I know there's been talk of, do you ever move Norby to first base? I mean, Graham Paulie got first base opportunities at a time last season, which confused me also, because I think Norby is better suited for first base than Paulie. Just because of the chasm of their defensive skills. If Paulie's healthy, he should be playing defensively at third over Norby. First base is something, going back to an earlier comment, Eli, when you were talking about Conine not getting in the games yet, people might want to remember he's never played the position. And a lot of comments are going to say, well, his dad played first base. And yeah, I understand that, but he hasn't played first base, not at Duke when he was in college, not in the minors. And professionally, he's had a couple stints with the Marlins going back the last couple of seasons. But defensively, I think you still need to learn the position and get reps at first. And I'd like to see him get in the game, because how else are you going to get his bat in the lineup? Are you going to start him at right field and push Casey down the list? I find it hard to believe that Casey would be overlooked for Griffin Conine at this juncture and how much the Marlins had to pay to get him. Something I'm going to be watching very closely the next week or two.
Well, I just wanted to shout out real quick. I wouldn't call Norby's defense elite. He was a negative defensive WAR player.
No, Paulie.
Oh, Paulie's defense.
Yeah,
elite.
Yeah. It's up there. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's up good.
There. Poor man's Brian Hayes.
It's good. It's good. I thought you said Norby. I was like, wait, let's talk about that. But yeah, no, Paulie is a loss for sure. I mean, and I was going to say this, Eli, like, yes, it's early. Yes, it's been 3 games. Yes, we know. But I mean, you just really want to see Norby like grab the bull by the horns and go out there and really show that, okay, I belong here. I belong on this team. I'm the third baseman. This is the guy you traded for when you thought that I was the centerpiece of the trade and not Kyle Stowers. Like, you want to see him play up to that, and he's just so underwhelming still. And everything that he does, he is underwhelming. And it doesn't seem that that's changed. He looks the same. His at-bats look the same. His defense looks the same. It's just the same guy. He's not even talking like he's enthused in the interviews that he does. I don't want to knock the guy too badly because I hope that he can come back and be good, but it just looks like the same Connor Norby that we saw last year. Maybe there's something different going on behind the scenes. I hope that there is, but for what we see in front of our eyes, and yes, it's 4 games into spring training, and I'm not overreacting. You want to see this guy come out and really, really get after it, and it doesn't seem like that's going on. So that's my take on it. Maybe others and coaches will disagree with me and say that he's been a changed man, but it doesn't look any different right now for Connor Norby, and that is definitely concerning.
I think the change comes in the sense where he admits like this was a bad year. A lot of it was because of it. Well, he was injured for most of the year. I'm not going to say the bad year was because of the injuries, because I think there were things that legitimately happened on the field that did not make him very good. But I do think injuries play a part of that, clearly, because he got off. He ended his season off well in the sense where right before the injury he was pretty good. But yeah, you're right, Carver. He had the bad throw at third. I think he's kind of held his own at third so far when he has played. Not saying he's been good, just he's held it. But then you look offensively, it hasn't been great. I'll have to look at the numbers, but I don't think he's been great. I think he's actually struck out quite a bit too. He's what?
1 hit. Just one.
Yeah. Well, one more than Owen Casey, but yeah, he struck out 3 times.
Yeah, that's
1 hit. He's put the ball in play, I guess, but he's yet to walk in 70 Bs. So whatever. I mean, we'll give it a bit.
Unlike Casey,
again.
Yes, but unlike Casey, this is a guy that can't lean on just the one tool of power. He needs to be the bat to ball guy that you kind of referred to. Needs to put the ball in play to get on base, right? So I mean, I'm just underwhelmed still. I mean, I had hoped that he would come in and kind of be changed. Hopefully we still see it. I mean, it's very early. There's still time for things to get turned around very quickly, but it just doesn't look or seem any different to me so far for that player.
Well, also with Norby, what's his calling card offensively? He's not a power hitter. I know you said he's a bat to ball guy, but he whiffs and chases at a rate that is nowhere close to that profile. He doesn't have a true skill set that he can rely on. And if he can't play third, where do you play him? Because you're not playing him at second. I mean, he actually, to me, has the profile of a backup utility player at this point.
Not right. Yeah, I wouldn't go there yet. I would give it some time. I think they're going to give this first base thing a try. Outfield as well. I think Eli even wrote with Norby. Maybe I misread this, but he's not as bad as people may think in the outfield. Now, again, it's been a long time, so it's but
yeah,
they're going to try him at third. They're really going to hammer this third base thing down. They think he could do it. He thinks he could do it. I think he has the arm for it. I just think everything else has been a little underwhelming. So we'll see. He's held his own so far outside of one bad throwing error, but yeah, I got to give it time because clearly offensively it isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Well, as part of our foul territory partnership, we have everybody that is hammering on our door trying to get included on these shows, including SeatGeek. So Jeremiah, why don't you tell everybody about them and what they have to offer as part of this foul territory thing?
The World Baseball Classic is next week, and shortly thereafter, Sandy Alcantara and the Miami Marlins are going to take the field on opening day. The only place for the best deals for tickets is at SeatGeek, the #1 rated ticketing app and website with over 70,000 events listed. It isn't just baseball. There you got concerts, festivals, all the sporting events you can think of, and each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a great deal. Look for the green dots, which indicate the best value, and avoid the yellow or red dots, which suggests it may not be the best deal. And of course, we have a code for you. Use Territory10 for 10% off your next purchase at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Territory10. Be sure to click the link in the description below to download the app. Have the code automatically added to your account for easy use later. Thanks again to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show.
Thank you, SeatGeek.
Thank you.
Yeah, as we're going to wrap up this conversation relatively soon, I want to talk about just my last word on Norby when it comes to the outfield stuff is that I had just reviewing the tape on what he was doing as in the minor leagues as part of the Orioles system is a guy that one of his best defensive attributes is that he is an above average runner, just in terms of straight line running. He gets clumsy when it comes to everything else, when it comes to having to make these quick decisions and kind of reorient his body to make off balance throws and just the general hands, all that stuff. I thought his best asset was actually his speed. And that's kind of why between that and just the raw arm strength, as Kevin noted, the raw arm strength is good too. That the combination of those things, I thought could make him solid in one of the corner outfield spots if it came to that. But he's still a few steps away. I think the indication that Clayton McCullough gave is that they would, after third base, that the main fallback would be first base, and then from there they would look at the outfield. So it's nothing that is pressing when it comes to that. And then just going back to offensively, I'm a little higher on his power as a hitter than I guess you guys are. I mean, that is what really jumped out when he played for the Marlins that first month or so in late 2024 is how he was hitting balls out to all fields. Even if the raw power itself is not majestic, like the way that he backspins balls he's a guy that can play. His results in that department, I think, can actually supersede his plain physical skills with the way that he's able to hit the ball at right angles and the way that I thought overall that there is still quite a bit of promise there when it comes to being a hitter. Ultimately, what we saw last year, especially, is that his swing decisions was getting in the way of him. He wasn't getting into the right counts. And then the other really weird trend is that his reverse platoon splits in his career, where even if you realistically, it's unlikely he's going to be a true everyday starter. But the thing is, if you play him only against lefties, then historically he has not shown that he can hit lefties. When he's gotten hot in the past, most of his damage has come against same-handed, right-handed pitching. So that's the other interesting variable here, because this is a Marlins team that believes quite heavily in the importance of platoon advantages. And yet in his case, when he's been given that advantage the past couple of years, he hasn't taken advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, in the minors too, he was that true 4 average hitter, like 290, 300. Like he was really good at getting on base and didn't strike out anywhere near what he did last year. So that's kind of what I was referring to, Jeremiah, to your point, that he kind of needs to be that, put the ball in play, not swing and miss. He does have sneaky power, I think. I don't think he has no power. I think it's just sneaky. More so that doubles first, gap to gap guy, I think, is what he was in the minors. But man, that's a far cry from what we saw when he made with the Marlins last year. So I was hoping that he came in completely different. It just hasn't happened yet. That doesn't mean it can't happen. It just hasn't happened yet. But just a quick call out for me before we go, Eli. I wanted to call out another guy that they've played at third base quite a lot, who I don't think he definitely won't make it out of spring training. Maybe we see him late in the year this year, but I've been impressed by Dylan Josso, who they've put at third base a bit. Already has a couple hits. I think he looks good at third base. I think that player is sizing up to be a decent look and a decent get in that trade with the Yankees. So I've liked what we've seen from Dylan Josso. I think he could be decent.
One more guy I actually would like to shout out, and he deserves it for now. It's Davison De Los Santos. I don't know exactly how he did today, but through the first 2 games, it was actually pretty good. Good at bats, good stuff. 3 hits in 3 games, so he probably had a hit today. He has an RBI. He's only struck out once. I know he hasn't walked, but he hasn't struck out yet or once. So 3 games so far. I don't think he's the guy who's going to make it the opening day roster, but it needs to be noted. This is literally the only true first baseman on the 40-man roster. So if things go south with Christopher Morel and maybe Griffin Conine doesn't hold it up at first, this is the guy. So they're going to have to call him up at some point. They're going to call him up at some point this season. I think Mr. Jack McMullen will be getting a call-up contest point. I don't know when that will be, but so far, so good for Davison. Made the trip. I don't know if he'll maybe play tomorrow in Clearwater again. Maybe that'll be a Christopher Morel day, but I think for now, so far, good start for Davison. It's still early. I think it's early to make any certain takes outside of, obviously, Sandy and Yuri will be in the rotation. And Chris Paddock. Those are the only 3 takes we can make right now.
All singles, and he stole a base. I don't know what that comment was about, but he only has 1 strikeout. So, I mean, yes, he will strike out a lot, but in the spring,
I said he has 1 strikeout. I said that.
No, the comment at the bottom was that is he whiffing a lot? I don't know.
Oh no, he's actually pretty good at bats. Yeah.
No, yeah, he's actually all of his hits are singles, which is not like him. He's more so the power first guy, but man, yeah, I think Kevin's right. He will be up at some point. I would agree with that. It just depends on when, and he's the closest thing that they have to like a actual first baseman. So I think he definitely will be up at some point. A good start for him. I'll see how he can keep it up. But no, it's been good for him so far too.
I'd be remiss real quick if I didn't mention Josh White as we wrap up the show, because his slider is looking disgusting. I mean, that is an above average pitch that's going to get a lot of hitters out at the big league level. I can't wait to see him, hopefully become a bullpen staple here in 2026 at some point.
Shout out Matthew Edsel.
Yeah, Eli, you hear that? He's a reliever, but he still belongs on the opening day roster. Do it. He needs to be there.
Yeah. Hold on. I want to share clips of Mr. White from today. This is pitching against the Blue Jays. 2 more strikeouts. He had 2 strikeouts in his first spring appearance and 2 more today. Both of these on sliders. One of them a chase down and in, and then the other one was just almost perfectly placed right around the knees, just a tick below the zone where it's too tempting to take. And both of them against left-handed batters. So that is something that really jumped out to me about White last year, the way that he dominates both lefties and righties. He gets the same sort of stupid swings from both of them. Like last year, the platoon splits were non-existent. He struck out 40% of guys from both sides of the plate. It's just platoon neutral dominance from Josh White. And I think he's great. So it's his status is going to depend just in terms of the more experienced relievers ahead of him on the depth chart. And at this point, we noted that one guy we didn't mention in the injury update is Anthony Bender. He's another guy who hasn't yet appeared in a game. He's been dealing with a shin issue, and he's faced live hitters recently. He's just trending in a way that you would expect him to get into a game by later next week. And that should be enough time for him to build up for opening day. But whether it's him or if Andrew Nardi has some sort of weird setback, I think all it takes is one of those guys ahead of him to have some sort of injury or very worrisome performance trend to open up a spot. I don't think, as it currently stands, I don't think he'd slide into the opening day roster right away. I think we've had this discussion before. I think he needs kind of one more experienced pitcher to fade off or become unavailable, and then he'll be kind of the first guy up.
Boo. Disagree. He's there. He's on the opening day roster right now. And spring training today. He's to be there.
Yeah. I think he's on the opening day roster too. I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Undersized righty with a fastball slider dominant combo. Maybe that could work out for another Marlins pitcher. We'll see.
Alrighty.
Let me see. Any other comments I want to get? Wow, I love Marcel. He's so observant. Bradley Blaylock, easy for me to say. He is the one seemingly healthy pitcher that actually has not appeared in a game yet. Now, nobody else is on top of this because nobody is thinking too much about Bradley Blaylock and his
Someone asked about
9
that the
ERA
other
from
day.
last year. That's something we will follow up on perhaps in the coming days if he's still not using the game. He's on the 40-man roster, and he had some interesting things to say. I think Kevin was there when he addressed the media, before the spring, and he was talking about being excited to pitch at sea level. Something to monitor. He was very likely going to be bound for Jacksonville anyway, no matter how the spring went. But for people that really follow this stuff closely, yes, Bradley Blaylock is the one healthy pitcher that we haven't seen in a game yet. On the position player side, one that sticks out is Fenwick Tremble. He had a really exciting year last year, climbing all the way up to Double-A and being very productive there. He was good in the fall league, got the invite to spring. And I thought, maybe now with the WBC coming up, maybe that's when we see him. But the fact that he hasn't appeared in a single game yet, that is a bit of a yellow flag.
He's there. He is there.
Right.
So. And with Blaylock, real quick, he did throw a live BP alive the other day. The day Chris Paddock started is when he threw. And they said he'll pitch in the next couple days. So my assumption is he probably goes tomorrow. So we'll see. Maybe tomorrow in Clearwater. That would make the most sense. And then we'll see. But he is alive. He is healthy. And he's gonna pitch. Not sure when, but he will pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You guys think, like I said, Josh White is what Max Meyer could look like if they actually do put him in the bullpen? Because I certainly do.
Yes, 100%.
I'm not doing this conversation all over again, but yes, I agree.
No, we're out of time. I'm just going to end the show with that because it's been an ongoing conversation. So, yeah, Josh White is Max Meyer if they put Meyer in the bullpen. You got two guys like that? Let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay. We'll wrap it up there here on FOF Live. Jeremiah Geiger, Kevin Barral, Alex Carver, and myself, Eli Sussman. And we will definitely have at least one more stream coming up next week, and then on throughout the rest of the spring training as we get closer, get a clear idea of how this team is coming together, have a bigger sample size of stuff to really dive into. Thanks to our pals at Foul Territory for this new setup here. And thanks, of course, to our sponsors for keeping the lights on throughout this whole process as well, especially Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. Their information has been across the bottom of the screen throughout the entire show. And hope you take them up on their offer and use our promo code FishOnFirst to save on 10% on your order over there. So we'll keep you posted on the upcoming streams. It's a little bit of an unusual schedule over the course of spring training, but excited to have the rest of you guys going. One final technical note is that this one was supposed to be streaming from our new pod specific account, from the Fish on First pod account. And I got this little notification as I was about to go live that they need you to be verified in order to stream.
Oh yeah.
And
I dealt with that on the Pause the Podcast account.
Yeah, I'd let the verification lapse on that account and, continue to be verified on the main FOF account. So I think I got to pay like $4. They have like a limited time offer with it. They actually give me a discounted rate to become verified over there. So I got to slide Elon some money and then he'll set up that account then. So in this case, we were streaming from the FOF account and sharing it on the pod account. But moving forward, the streams themselves will actually be emanating from that Fish on First pod account. If you don't already follow it, please do, so that you can be fully up to speed and engaged with all of our streams moving forward. So we'll wrap it up there. Talk to you soon. Appreciate the support. As always, go fish.